Today is Sunday, August the 2nd, 2026. My name is Natalie, and I am the Good Shepherd here in central North Carolina on our little hobby farm. I have about 64 animals here. 44 of those animals are birds, chickens, and of those 44, 11 are roosters. Now's the time. I'm never prepared to do any of these videos, and yet this is very important to me. And today I'm going to be answering question number 10, which actually has 6 questions as a part of it, for the Shared Crossing Project. www.sharedcrossing.com. Founded by a gentleman by the name of William Peters. First of all, when I heard his story, I was like, well, this is my story, but it was his story. And whenever anybody in life meets other people like that, where you're like, well, this is totally your story, but that's the same thing that happened to me, but in my ways, well, you know that something very special you're meant to become further aware of. The Shared Crossing Project is a project that was created by this gentleman, Mr. Peters, to study as well as create such forums of sharing amongst others who experience what is referred to as a shared death experience. D-E-A-T-H, shared death experience. There's a near-death experience and there's a shared death experience. With a near-death experience, that's happening to the individual. Let's say your temperature goes to 106, you projectile vomit, you're taken to the hospital, you're diagnosed with meningitis, and you go into a coma and you nearly die. And when you come back from all of that, the doctors are amazed, your family's amazed, and you're kind of dumbfounded. Not even bewildered, dumbfounded. And a lot of what happens during those times can lay dormant within you, because they're simply, what are you supposed to think, you know? When you're not aware of what happened to you, when you were kind of in another space and place, not dead, near death. A shared death experience is where somebody is dying in life for whatever reasons. Could be an old person dying, could be a young person, somebody in a car accident, somebody having a heart attack. For any reason, somebody's dying, and whatever their final, they need something of their soul before they go to heaven. And heaven makes sure that that happens by aligning these dying souls with whichever life souls can help get them what they need. The person involved, there's the one dying and the person involved. The person involved is often totally unaware of what's going on, and yet definitely becomes suddenly aware that something is going on. And this is what happened with me, Natalie, on January the 28th of 2022, about 4.5 years ago. I was driving from Florida, where I lived, up here to North Carolina, where I now live, to my mother and father-in-law's home. My father-in-law was dying at the age of 87 years old. January 28th is the day I was driving up. My father-in-law, whose name is JC, who shares the same initials as Jesus Christ, which is relevant to this whole situation, ultimately passed away in the evening of February the 1st, 2022. Hospice came out after midnight and pronounced his final date of death as February the 2nd, 2022, 2222. I didn't even learn about shared death experiences until this past year. And I learned about this project from listening to Alexa, play Coast to Coast AM. It's a podcast channel and paranormal. So it talks about Sasquatch, angels, UFOs, aliens, near-death experiences, shared death experiences, and just anything. Ouija boards, mysticism, everything. I couldn't believe when I heard the episode, and it was with the podcast lady, Sandra Champlain, I think is her name. Sandra Champlain. And she's the one who tells everybody and shares with everybody about life, you know, that there is life after death, that we don't die. We never die. We just simply leave this place on earth. I'm all hands aboard with this Sandra Champlain. She's a tongue twister name. When I heard this podcast, I immediately began to transform once again. It was like, boom, it was a divine listening where heaven was like, it's time for you to tap further in, Natalie, and begin to pull everything out that you've been experiencing since January 28th, 2022. What? And yet, it all began January 1st, January 4th, when I fell into bed with COVID round 2, that I really knew something was going on, and I still didn't at that point, nobody knew at that point that my father-in-law was dying. So many other things, and I share these, not address, I share it all in my videos 1 through 9. It was a beautiful moment, and I did meet at the same time. So this was a shared death experience. And what it was, ultimately, what I finally just discovered 4.5 years later, is that my father-in-law clearly had a wish, a prayer, a need, a yearning for somebody in life to carry the torch of sharing Jesus. Me? Whoa. That's a big torch to pass to anybody. And ultimately, now we're getting, there's 11 total questions for this shared crossing project, and this is question number 10. So we're nearing the end of these questions, and I initially answered these questions online very briefly. I didn't even get into detail. And then I began to join a couple of their bi-monthly forums where there's persons that will talk about their experience, you know, and you can chime in and everything, comment and whatever else. And it's been most beneficial to me. Yes, like a support group of some sort, but not really like a support group. It's a forum, a space and place to hear others share stories and find the similarities, hear the similarities, and further be able to beyond embrace your moment of a shared death experience, further be able to bring it all to life because it's been laying dormant, because what are you supposed to do with what you don't know what to do with? Okay? And ultimately, you know, well, I think January 28th, 2022, 1/28/22 became more important in date to me than my own date of birth. Whoa. Question number 10. How has this transmission, this is what happens when you have a shared death experience, it transforms your life entirely. And the main focus everybody shares is the same thing, where it's heaven is absolutely involved. And it's like, wow, whoa, you can't explain these things. It's beyond signs and symbols and you know, it's visions and all of these things. And I saw it all, I felt it all. I saw my father-in-law's soul after he passed away, a green ball of orb-like light, cross over a bridge that at the bridge one of the bridges he built here on his farm and property, and yet I never knew was the east side. And then I learned later on, I mean, it's a beautiful story because it didn't just end on January the 28th, and it didn't just begin on January the 28th. It happened on January the 28th, and with my hindsight, it did begin on January 4th when I went into bed with COVID. And yet, now in the past 4.5 years, I've been able to really embrace the reality that it's been going on my whole life with me, Natalie, as a person, way before becoming the Good Shepherd, which, by the way, was heaven who assigned this role, gifted me this role of becoming the Good Shepherd, Natalie, here in life. And as a Good Shepherd here in life, it's for more than tending to my flock and my hobby farm animals. It is about sharing and utilizing my flock of animals in my life to be delivered to, you know, life. And this is where I've also shared that heaven loves social media, because heaven is never about one person. Heaven is about mass quantity. The more the merrier. And so social media becomes an amazing divine venue when you are sharing with the full purpose of full circle benefit and goodness. Not just a benefit for yourself or just a benefit for one person. Okay? How has this transmission impacted your life? In terms of, number one, feelings about death and dying, the afterlife. Number two, in terms of the sense of whether you will see departed loved ones again. Number three, the meaning and purpose of life. What matters most? Your current relationships, grief related to the loss. Number five, beliefs about who you are. Number six, what are your thoughts on the nature of existence? What I do when I'm answering these questions, and these are for me, question number 10 I'm on now, questions number 1 through 9 have literally continued to transform me in peaceful, further understanding ways. Not of what happened to Natalie, and yet, yes, what it all means. Why? How? My feelings about death, actually it says your thoughts. Well, it says feelings. Okay, guys, listen up. I'm right here. I am somebody who, I've shared this also my whole life, I'm somebody who feels more than thinks, and yet I'm a highly intelligent person. Of course I utilize my mind, and yet most people in life aren't aware of their soul. So of our three entities, mind, body, and soul, most people in life, literally totally unaware to them, only operate on their two entities of mind and body. And the other reality is that most of those persons really aren't even operating on their mind at all. They're operating in a body, habitual, responsive way to life. The less thought, the happier life. And the less thought means you can't even be aware of that. So when you're somebody like me who's on the outside, it becomes a difficult life because you're like seeing things and you're like, oh my God. And yet, what are you going to do? So my thoughts on death and dying, well, I've always been close to death and dying from the time I was a little girl, rescuing mice and bunnies, in the fields. And in high school, I volunteered with elderly people, and in college, I studied human services and was working with a lot of elderly people in assisted living facilities. And then after graduating, I administrated several assisted living facilities. So I've been around death and dying, as well as I've also had animals all my life. And so I've been around a lot of death of animals. I've had an animal business, a dog business. And so the more people I know with animals, and I also worked at a veterinary hospital for several years. And I was known as the angel of death during those times. There were many people who couldn't stay as their beloved animal was being euthanized. And I was the one who would comfort and hold and love on their animals as they were crossing over. So I've had many shared death experiences is what I'm saying. And yet what happened on January 28th, that was out of this world because I was in my car traveling interstate roads and my father-in-law was in his bed dying. I'm used to having shared death experiences right there, and yet I didn't even know those were called shared death experiences. I thought those were simply moments of death in life that I was a part of. So with my father-in-law, that was a totally whoa, there was no thoughts, and yet clearly I was driving interstate roads, so I had to be of mind and body, My thoughts on death and dying, well, heaven is real, and that is what has become my purpose since meeting Jesus Christ on January the 28th and receiving that blessed torch that my father-in-law, I feel honored that I was able to receive the Jesus torch and give my father-in-law, in an unknowing way at the time, a more peaceful journey. What I saw of his green light going over the bridge and straight into the star-filled skies, towards the East Star, which is the same star that I think the shepherds utilized in order to find Jesus on the day Jesus was born. The East Star, the East Bridge, became very, very special to me before I even knew anything other than what I saw. If we believe anything, then it's real. I feel that life is meant to be lived. It is a journey, an adventure. It should be lived like a fairy tale, seeking the trinkets and treasures of life, the breadcrumbs left behind, all of the different beds tried out, the soft and the medium and the hard, the hair to be cut, the apples to be eaten, the yellow brick roads to follow. In beyond metaphorical ways, in real ways. And living on a farm, well, I've been able to create a real life of fairy tale, farm tale, daily journey and adventure with my beautiful animals, my tribe, my posse. I believe that these animals are all here as gifts from heaven, and they are meant to be utilized and shared with life. I believe it was also heaven who did create my whole venue with hashtag the Good Shepherd Natalie, as well as years prior preparing me for that by having me start posting on TikTok, which was something, what? I wasn't a poster on anything. You know, I usually got in trouble for anything I posted. So these are the ways heaven does work. And this is what has happened to me. How has this impacted my life? Well, I literally am hands out, palms up, meaning I give all to heaven every day. Of course, I'm a human being living in this world, and I have to rely on my mind, my body, my soul, my life, my needs, my, you know, all of that. And yet there is a absolute, undeniable, full trust that I, Natalie, the Good Shepherd, have for heaven, for God, for Jesus, and for spirit of angels. This is what I continue to see with my animals whenever they are in need of something, if they're sick or injured or dying or scared or anything like that, or happy. They find that peace in my presence, in my arms, in my hands, with my voice, with my being. And this is how it should be for who we all are surrounded with in life. It's been a most beautiful life. How has it impacted me and those around me too? This question asks. Well, I really don't even want to answer all of that on a video, to be honest. I will just say simply that meeting Jesus Christ for me was an absolute blessing, divine, a very real moment, no doubt in my mind. And then the preceding events that occurred directly after that meeting Jesus, and then I do answer a lot of these and the other questions. Heaven is real. I knew my whole life that God we would never see, and so he was simply real to me from the time I was born. God was already in me. I'm a child of God. That's who I am. This is how this has impacted me, is that I no longer fear sharing who I am, who heaven has me feel I am. When I say heaven has me know, well, that's for me to know. You can't prove these things to anyone in life. And unfortunately, for persons like me who are very, full of expression, and I share a lot of life, and I'm kind of out there, well, I've lost all of my fear of sharing my life. And so that's impacted me greatly, because there's those in life that simply, they think it's, I'm airing dirty laundry. Maybe they're afraid I'm going to say something about them that makes them look bad. I don't really know. But those closest to me in my life have not embraced any of this in the past 4.5 years. And in fact, a lot of awful things have happened to me. And yet, the beauty of meeting Jesus is that I accept the awful. And I've learned with all of the circles and things that heaven has shown me, one of them was, and I never knew these things, so it's like amazing to me. I didn't draw this good, but a circle with like arrows going around. I was like, what does this mean, And so I looked it up, and I was like, oh, this is the circle of eternity. Oh, okay. And then the other sign they showed me, circle, was, the peace sign. And then the other one they showed me, and these are things that the next day I'd go to Goodwill and I'd find a sign just like this. This was the upright pentagram, a star. I saw it messy, but So 3 circles. The upright pentagram is ultimate protection from what I learned. The peace sign is peace. And the arrows on the circle is eternity. In the circle of eternity, I also learned that the good always leads. The bad's going to be thrown in there, but the bad never leads. So it's us in life. This is where heaven utilizes such persons. This is why I had this experience. This is part of my being crossed, taking on the love of Jesus and sharing all of heaven with life without fear. I know that in particular my family is having a really hard time with this, because it's like, who's Natalie trying to be? And the truth is, Natalie's not trying to be anything. And, you know, I'm here to embrace serving heaven in the ways I feel that I know that heaven has directly embedded within me, blueprinted me to be embedded at that point, January the 28th, and yet heaven needed me to live my whole life and have all these other things happen. I've had a pretty hard life, and yet, come on, if you compare your life to other people, you're like, I could always be worse, you know? So my thoughts on death and dying. Well, heaven is real, and that's part of my purpose, is to share this with life and to share my stories of on a farm with a lot of animals. That means, statistically speaking, the more the merrier, and yet also the more life means the more death. So you'd often hear of people on farms definitely going through death a lot. Just like if somebody works at a veterinary hospital, they're surrounded by death on any given day. I do believe life is eternal. I do believe this is one space and place, Earth, that we are absolutely all meant to be, with great purpose. And it's beautiful when we're able to learn our purpose. I'm not here to preach or prophesize anything, so I'm not here to cite biblical passages, and yet the Bible has become very important in my life since my father-in-law died, and I inherited one of his 3 Bibles that he had. Very, very special, beyond special, like, whoa, like very sacred to me. Especially since after inheriting that Bible, many of my angel messages, I've been talking to angels all my life, and I've been sharing angel messages with life for about half my life. To know that heaven always works all together, you know? So the day I met Jesus, God was there, angels were there, you know, protecting me on my journey, safe journeys. Heaven is real, and we need heaven wants us to enjoy life. Heaven wants us to be curious. Heaven wants us to be kind to ourselves, number 1, and to all others. I love heaven's use of the animals. And just recently, I saw a post on TikTok that was very sad, and it was a hen that died. And the owner, the mom of the hen, her tribute was so touching. And I responded with one of my lengthy comments, you know, and I told her to look to the clouds, that all of my animals, when they die, for all my life, but, you know, whatever, half my life again, let's say, when one of my animals dies, within 1 to 3 days, I see them in the clouds. Pareidolia, you might want to call it, and yet really to me, it's always represented, okay, this is my animal letting me know I've made it, I am where you think I am, and I'm with peace, I'm in heaven. And here I am in the skies, and the skies surround us. So what a more beautiful place for such an energy of a soul, still alive, just not here in body anymore. What a beautiful way for them to be able to sprinkle us with delight and joy and wonder, further curiosity. Curious. I'm not even using these notes really anymore. I absolutely believe we will see our departed loved ones again, and I share a lot of my everyday with my departed loved ones, with my father-in-law, with my nana, with my papa, with my grandma, with my uncle, with a dear family friend, with several other angels that I never knew in life. I literally spend every day with angels, and it is beautiful when certain little things happen, and then something else happens. You know, and it's like, boom, you know it's connected. And I'm like, that was my Nana, you know? Like me one day, I have my Nana's china cabinet, and it's in our workshop now. I don't have space for it in the barn dominium, and it's collected dust, and it's like all covered up with stuff. And one day I walked in and I thought to myself, I'd really like to clean that up and maybe clean up the workshop, put a carpet down and just make it, shabby chic workshop, And then it was like, I'm too busy, and off I went to do other things. And then later on the next day, I'm in the kitchen and I heard something fall. I walked into the workshop, and it was something that no way should have fallen off of this china cabinet, and it did. It wasn't broken though, and it should have been broken. At that point, boom, my mind, body, and soul all connected and aligned to know, without being able to prove to the world, that that was my Nana saying, you do need to do what you were thinking yesterday. You do need to clean this up, the china cabinet, and do this for you. For you, Natalie. Not for me, Nana, in heaven, for you. Our loved ones absolutely guide us and protect us. And being protected is not always about saving our life and, oh, you're not going to die, you can do whatever you want. No, angels can't save us. And the truth is, we are, I believe, all born with a blueprint. A lot of people like to refer to it as fate, F-A-T-E. Maybe it's kind of the same thing, blueprint. And yet the idea of blueprint, I don't even know where I heard blueprint from. I don't know if I created it. Most of the things, these words, I thought I created the Good Shepherd. I didn't even know that was a real term, other than from, Jesus, Good Shepherd. A Good Shepherd in life, and that was hard for me to begin sharing, because I didn't want people to think I was like claiming to be somebody special, and yet I am somebody special to heaven. And so I'm like, hallelujah, amen. I love how it's impacted my life, this moment, because I do love heaven, and I love serving heaven, being kind every day. Sprinkle, sprinkle love, sharing love, helping others. I am not here to receive financial compensation for any of my love and support with people. I've been able to help people across the world now with their hens who have been, egg bound, or with sauerkraut, or issues with walking, or any of the other things that I have been sharing on my social media, with great purpose, to become a source of beyond curiosity sharings. A lot of people can't just read a book, this is what you're supposed to do with sauerkraut. A lot of people need to see somebody doing what they're doing with their bird, as one example. So heaven does utilize everybody, and the blueprint for Natalie was, here's your life, you're going to do your life, you're going to do your life, and then boom, you're going to go down with COVID, we're going to cleanse you, we're going to get you off all those drugs you were on your whole life, the mental drugs, and you're going to come out and you're going to skyrocket, basically, to infinity and beyond, catapulted into a eternal realm, not even another realm. And yet, let's call it the parallel universe, Natalie. I started looking up parallel skies. There was like nothing in Google about parallel skies. This was 4.5 years ago. So a lot of things that have come through to me, I've realized that heaven is very philosophical, very direct, very simple, and yet also seemingly entirely vague at times, V-A-G-U-E. Like, are you kidding me, God? That's all you're going to tell me? Who am I? Beliefs about who I am. I'm Natalie. Kind of like Madonna or Prince. I no longer need to be, I'm Natalie June Irvin York. Or, I'm Natalie York. I'm Natalie. I'm the Good Shepherd, Natalie. I'm a messenger in and of life for heaven on earth. Heaven has been very specific with me, not vague, in all these years of my life, saying, while definitions of the world will say you have the abilities of a psychic and a medium, and actually beyond all of that, you're able to, Natalie, you have much more going on that you don't need to really know about right now. We love the little naive Natalie, the little, dee Natalie. So you don't need to know all this, and yet we do want you to know, we don't want you to label yourself, Natalie, as a psychic or a medium, because you are more. Not to say they are less. You are a psychic and a medium, Natalie, and yet your role is more than a psychic or a medium. Your role is the Good Shepherd, and it's full circle, full realm, which means you have many roles. Of course, I'm an empath. I feel I'm definitely a child of God. You hear my roosters now? I'm getting ready to end this message and they know it. And the truth is, since I hit the record button, here we are at 30 minutes again, heaven has been assisting me this entire time. Very much so, like when I deliver my angel messages. So this is really fascinating to me to continue learning the ways heaven does work. I always thought it was just angels who were giving me the angel messages until like the past 3 years. It was like, whoa, I didn't know they all work together, like literally for even these messages. So with my videoing and living on the farm, I've been able to learn, because I'm aware, you hear my roosters are beginning to chime in, that they sense and feel my animals, my energy, of course. That's, everybody can understand that. And yet I'm embodied with heaven right now during such messages, because heaven wants me to continue answering these questions for me. Because the more I understand and embrace of what happened to Natalie on January the 28th of 2022 in my shared death experience, heaven knows the more I'll be able to, yes, help others in life, be able to embrace, as well as be able to plan on having your own shared death experiences with your loved ones in life. It's the same thing I've been telling people all along. It's not that everybody can learn to talk to angels. No, not everybody in the world can, for various reasons, endless reasons. And yet, we who can learn. I believe we have the power. If we know all three of our entities, mind, body, and soul, as part of my purpose with heaven, that this is how it's impacted me, is that, Natalie, you're going to focus in on soul, S-O-U-L. You're going to really study soul, Natalie. You're going to really learn about it, and you're going to find ways to share with life. Because the truth is, life really doesn't associate with our soul beyond the definition in a dictionary of what a soul is. Because we can't see it, and we can't prove it exists, or what is it really? Heaven's like, this is part of your role, Natalie. So me doing these videos, this is part of my role as well. I'm literally in a school of literal divinity, no tuition, no time for classes. It's all day, any time. And I love living my life in such ways, which is why I love living a life of solitude. Because I am gifted and given the time to share with animals that I've always loved my whole life, to witness miracles every day on my farm with my animals, to have the clouds and skies above me, and to be able to not be distracted or interrupted by unnecessary drama or, just ugliness towards, whatever, anything that distracts in a negative way. I'm able to give my all to my life, and I'm able to, over the past many years, come to learn that I literally live in the now, N-O-W, right now. I know I need to know, what's coming up tomorrow and the next day, and what day is it. I'm very particular. I always need to know what day it is and what time it is, all those things, and yet in different ways now, peaceful ways, not like anxious or rushed ways. I'm grateful for the life that I have. I think I answered all of question number 10. That was a big 6 questions to 1 question. There's only one more question to go, number 11, and I'll be doing that whenever I can, feel up to it. And it's not about when I can. Again, I literally wasn't even planning on doing this today. And I don't plan on such things because I don't need to do these things. I do need to do them for me. It's not about healing. I'm not seeking healing from this shared death experience. I'm seeking further understanding so that I can be able to, at some point, further share with those who have left my realm and bubble by choice and kind of left me alone. So hopefully this will all be able to full circle, because that's how heaven works. When heaven's working on me right now, heaven knows that whatever I work on would be able to help others in life in some beautiful way.